What if I told you that AI isn't replacing creativity, it's reimagining it? That somewhere a team is quietly building the future of storytelling, where digital sets shift in seconds, where algorithms don't just forecast the box office, they cast the movie. Today on Lead with AI, we're pulling back the curtain with Nicholas Capone, co founder of Mixed Slate Productions, the studio reshaping filmmaking. This isn't just about the future of film, it's about the future of you, the creator, and how AI might just be your most powerful co director yet. Lights, camera, action, let's get into it. Welcome to Lead with AI. I'm Dr. Tamara Nall. In each episode, we will take you behind the scenes with visionary leaders shaping the future of AI across public and private sectors. Join us as we explore groundbreaking projects and innovations that are transforming industries and making a real impact on people's lives. Let's dive in.
Hi, everyone. How are you? It's Dr. T, your host with Lead with AI, and I am so excited to have Nicholas Capone, who is the owner and executive producer of Mixed Slate Productions. Welcome, Nicholas. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I am doing well. I'm here in the beautiful city of Accra in West Africa, Ghana specifically, and you are making history today, you along with one other guest, because today is my first recording sessions internationally. So thanks for making history.
Man, congratulations.
Absolutely. And we also made history by being number one in technology for a month in Apple Podcasts. And so I'm going to keep saying that because it's because of my great guests and the topics and the products that we're featuring. And I'm so appreciative. So thanks for being a part of that story as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. So I'm excited about talking about what you're doing over there at Mixed Slate Productions, because you're going to help our listeners really understand some of the internal AI tools that you're building to actually help with, from initiation all the way to finalization of your productions and your projects. So I'm really excited about that. I want to give it a name, but I'm not going to force it like Mixed Slate AI or something like that. But, let's get into it. And I always like to start with you. Like, who are you at your core? At what point did you decide to start Mixed Slate as well as decide to take advantage of all of these AI trends? Tell us a little bit about that story.
So I have always been very, very business oriented. I've worked in sales for pretty much my entire adult life there, and but I've also I've been an actor as well, and acting just started getting a little bit better for me, and I was making good money, and I just kind of hit that point where I was like, I don't understand why I'm selling all this stuff for other people when I could just go sell stuff for myself.
Right.
So I did.
We've all been there.
Right.
Here, hello, me too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started producing and I was acting as well. And that was like kind of part of the plan, because you can, when you're the executive producer and you're bringing all the money to the project, you can just cast yourself. So right. You don't even need to audition or anything. It's fine. So I started doing that and, sort of started, building things around it. And then as that happened, I was just meeting people, my business partner in particular, who's a writer. She actually has all the strengths that I don't have, in terms of that. I'm not really that much of a writer or, a director rather, and so we kind of, we balance it, very well there. But I've always been on the innovative side of things. And it's always, it's always been a challenge for especially independent, filmmakers and producers, because they don't understand the core elements of business. And likewise with the investors too. The investors like to, talk so bad about it, but, somebody made the investments.
Right.
Into those deals. So, I mean, it's one of those where it's, there's not really winner in there, but, I kind of decided I want to change that.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Now tell us a little bit about your tools. What do they do?
So it says a wide range of things. So we started the process all the way from pre-development. And just for anyone who's not familiar, a film has several stages. There's pre-development where we're trying to figure out, is this the project that we want to put the money into?
Mm-hmm.
Then we have development. That's normally a short round of about $30,000 to $50,000. And that helps us essentially get together all of the information that we need to be able to see what we're going to do. Think of it like the business's seed money. You go through a certain, amount. And then once we're fully funded and we have the money to be able to shoot the movie, then we go through pre-production, production, post-production, and then ultimately delivery.
Got it.
And throughout all of these stages, the AI does different things to be able to help us. But it's extremely intuitive the way that it goes through it. So I'll give you a little bit of an example from each. So for the pre-development, it'll run the coverage for the screenplay for us, and it issues a 5-page report that gives the log line, the synopsis. It gives feedback on the plot, on character development, on dialogue, on marketability, and all of this other stuff. And what it does is it'll take that. Not only does it give the feedback, but it also scores the feedback on a scale of 1 to 10. And then it averages all the scores together and gives us an overall score. And that overall score is what I use to determine whether or not that's a screenplay we're going to move in on.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to that, when you get to the development side of it, this is where my favorite part is, and that is in the projections. What it'll do is it will come up with the comps for us. So we give it the metadata of the movie, and we tell it, here's the screenplay, here's the log line, here's everything that we have. And what it does is it will give us the most optimal budget to be able to shoot something like that at. It will go through every single character and tell us who the most optimal actor is to hire for that role. And when I mean optimal, I don't mean just like best actor. I mean also like worth the most amount of money in the market, trending the most right now, in this genre, in this budget range, who we can, so it's like, it's always someone we can afford. It's it is exact.
Right.
In addition to that, it also will go through and give a trend line. So what it'll do is we have it set up to 3 data points. And so what we do is we give it the year that we plan on releasing it. And what it'll do is it'll say release on this date. This is your most optimal window where you're going to make the most amount of money with it. If you miss this date, here's a second date that you hit. And if you miss that date, hit this date.
Right.
And then
that's amazing.
Yeah. And if we miss the third date, then all we have to do is just go and run it again for the next year, and it'll
do it.
Now
let's talk a little bit more about the development stage, because I think we were talking before, and that's like related to your holy smokes moment, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that and that dropping moment where you're like, oh wow, this tool is amazing?
So one thing that it does within there, outside of just giving us the trends and and the data for the actors and everything, is that it also it predicts based on other movies and the actors that you have in it, the budget range, and the runtime and everything, all of the data put together. It will go and it will will make predictions to the what we call SVOD, which is subscription on video on demand. That's like Netflix and Hulu, where you pay a subscription every month. TVOD, which is like YouTube TV and Prime, where you can rent it for $3.99 or whatever it is. And then there's AVOD, which is like Tubi, Pluto, anything that's ad supported. You can watch it for free, but there's ads. And then of course on top of that you have the box office. And then they have sometimes they have a different name for it, but essentially it's the without getting too technical, it's basically like the movies you see when you fly on a plane. That's a parameter. So in between there, right, not only is you have those specific rights, but then you also have territories. Africa would be in Africa and the Middle East. Europe is its own territory. Asia is its own territory. Oceania, which is like Australia and a bunch of islands around Australia. Then obviously you have North America, Latin America. So you have all those territories in which you can sell each one of those rights. And so what it did was, I have some, producer friends, as you can imagine. And so what we did was we took 15 movies, and we took all of the 15 movies out of the Vector store, so that we didn't count those movies. I didn't know about them at all. And what we did was we reran them as if they were new movies that we were going to release. And every single one of those movies came within $20,000 of what the actual number was.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Not only in like the gross box office, but in all of the streaming formats, in the airline format, for each territory individually, every single number was within $20,000 of what it actually was. And it wasn't just like that for one movie; it was like that for all 15 of them.
And we're talking about $1 million budgets, right?
Yeah, if you're $100,000 off, you're still correct.
Right. Wow. Wow. That's absolutely amazing. Now, I do have a question to go back to something you said over, and I know if I have the question, my listeners are as well. Now, you said that it will tell you, you'll give it a budget, put in all of these parameters, factors, etc., and then it will even tell you which actors or actresses you should try to pursue for your production. But what happens if the person is like really, really expensive? Is it not going to recommend that person, or is it going to recommend you need to get this person, but need to find, more funding sources?
No. So it won't do that. It won't do that unless we essentially tell it to. So we give it an estimated budget in those parameters.
Okay.
If we up the budget, it will account for that across the board. Including within the actors. But when I say it gives us the best actor, I mean the most optimal actor for that budget range, for that genre, for that release date at the current market right now. So if somebody if somebody ends up getting canceled tomorrow, or they do a bad movie or something like that happens, that is all going to be accounted for. And even though we can't afford them, and they're more, they're more popular than somebody else because they had that bad press and they're not selling right now, it would tell us to advise against that.
Okay. Wow, that is powerful.
It accounts for everything.
Right. And my listeners are very curious. So let's talk a little bit about the brain of your powerful tool. If we were to lift up the hood, what's there? How does it work? How is it being able to predict so accurately? What is going on?
Do you mean technically?
Yeah, technically, or, because there are all these factors that have to go in, right? All these metrics that have to go in. So how is it working to do all that? How did you train it? A little bit of techie, if you can. More so just letting people know how the brain of it works.
The brain of it works essentially the same way that I did it before I had it. Okay. So they, but it was a long, drawn out process, to be able to do it, prior to that. One of the reasons why I got into this was because there were people that were making such bad decisions, when it came to that type of stuff. Like, say, for example, like during the development, in order for me to get those projections, there were two people that I had to hire, that I had to hire. One was domestic and the other one was international. And I would have to go to them. I'd have to pay them money, upwards of about $5,000 each. And they would run the projections, and it would take them 3 weeks to be able to get me those projections. And then I'd be able to give it to the other person. Now I can click one button, and in 5 minutes, I can just give them the report. And it's more accurate, and, and other things like that. So what took them 3 weeks to do is step by step, essentially how I trained it to do it.
Got it.
That in combination with a bunch of testing, like I'll do, just like I said, I take out variables. Like, say, for example, if I'm doing Pirates of the Caribbean, I take out Pirates of the Caribbean from the Vector store. And then what I'll do is I'll run it as if it's a brand new movie and see what it does, because I already know what Pirates of the Caribbean did.
Got it. So basically, Yeah, and you already know what it is. So basically, you got the Nicholas Capone twin,
Yeah.
and you're automating, things that you did manually, and then training on data that you already had
Yeah.
throughout the years anyway.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Now, what ethical lines or considerations do you need to keep in mind, as you're running these numbers and starting from scratch all the way out to deployment on your projects? How do you keep the human in the loop? How do you remain ethical in all of this? Because this is a pretty powerful tool.
Yeah. I actually don't I don't see it that way.
Okay.
I know that people go crazy with that. Sometimes they're like, this is gonna take all of our jobs and stuff. If you are terrible at your job, you don't work for me in the first place. So there is nobody on my team that I would want to fire to begin with. So there's no need for that. However, as someone who owns multiple companies, when I hire somebody, I'm hiring them to do a specific thing and output a specific result. So that way the company can move, and so that way we can continue to make money and everything works. With that being said, if I hire them to do the marketing work and they need to generate leads in order to be able to do the marketing work, I do not want them spending 12 hours a day generating leads just so that way they could do 5 minutes worth of marketing work and then have to generate leads again.
Right.
For something like that, I would rather say, here's the AI, click this button, all of the leads are here, now do what I hired you to do. And because we don't have to hire twice the amount of people to be able to do what it should have taken half of them to be able to do, I can now also afford to pay you more money.
Yeah.
And that's,
I like the spin. Yeah.
Right. And so it saves me money as a business owner because I don't have to hire as many people, and I get to pay the people that I do hire more money than I would have otherwise had to pay them because we're making more money.
Yeah.
So I don't really see it as, now I'm not going to say every person that does business on the face of the planet thinks like that. But I think like that.
And you know what, because I get that question all the time in terms of how AI will impact jobs, etc. But you're spot on.
Yeah.
AI and leading technology will now allow people to focus on the high value task. And it's good for everybody. You get to pay them more. They can just focus on those activities or those work steps that can really drive value into what their role is and what they're supposed to do to support you. So that's amazing. And I appreciate that spin on my ethical question. Now let's talk about that jaw-dropping moment. So you gave us the example of being able to put through the 15 different movies, and it was able to predict the budget within $20,000. Tell us about a time where you used your tool and it surprised you, like you were blown away by the result.
So there was we have a new television pilot coming out. That's an animated series.
It's right behind you, the Mixed Bag.
Oh yeah, Mixed Bag, the series. And we were like just out of development on it. And we were to the point where we had the majority of the money, but we were still waiting on maybe one or two other investors to come in on it. And around that time is when you start looking for a director. Like you start making phone calls. Hey, this is going to happen. We need to hire somebody. And we interviewed one guy. I'm not going to say his name. Some people might know him. But we were trying to come to terms with him, and it wasn't happening. He wanted too much money. And it wasn't going to fit us. So what I did was I went through and I reran the numbers just to see if we could get anything from it. And this is when it was like super new, in terms of me building it out like that. And so I knew I wanted to do that with it, but I just hadn't like really tried it and tested it and everything. So I built it out, and this was all the time within the time that he was negotiating the deal with us. Because I was like, I was thinking as a producer, you're always thinking like, what's the backup plan if this doesn't happen? Right. Where are we going to go? So from the beginning of this happening, I knew that it took weeks and weeks for these deals to go through. So I was like, gives me some time. Let me try to build this thing out and see what I get. And what it did was when I put all of the information in, it started returning names. And the one name in particular that it returned at the top of the list was Nick Gibbons, which is the director that we hired to be able to do that. He worked at Adult Swim for maybe 15, 16 years, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
He did Squidbillies and a bunch of other, shows that people that love Adult Swim, they love all his shows. And it also, got us the help from Dave Willis, who created Aqua Teen Hunger Force. We had background, artists that did Rick and Morty. And the reason, like the way that we were able to get all of these people, because when I was putting it in, this was something that actually like recently happened at the time that I had no clue about. But Adult Swim was, they were letting people go. They were downsizing, they were letting people off, and the AI found out about it before I even heard it through the. And you can understand, as an executive producer, I hear things pretty quick.
Yeah.
And so, and I had no clue about this, and it already knew about it, and it put it through, and I made one phone call, and we got it in the interview, and now he directed the show.
Wow, that is amazing. I mean, that is that jaw-dropping moment when AI knew before you did it. Like you said, you have all the connections, so you would have found out pretty quickly and gave you suggestions because it was real time, literally laying off people in that moment.
Yeah,
Now, that is truly phenomenal. That is truly phenomenal. So talk to us a little bit about the future. So where do you see the future with Mixed Slate Productions and everything that you're doing, and particularly with AI? Like where do we see your tech in the world of production and in your industry?
You're gonna see a lot more films that are a lot more targeted.
Mm-hmm.
That are a lot more spot on. There are some other companies that using this. Now, this is a solution that we built for ourselves,
right?
But Warner Brothers, Sony, Paramount, they've all started using it. Different companies, and they, they're getting tremendous results from it. And so I think that movies are eventually going to get more targeted. It's not as in detail as what we're doing. Like they'll sell AI for the projections. We were like, we would have to spend like $150,000 a month to get what our system does if we use services in particular, so, because they rip people off. But anyway, they, so you're going to see a lot more pinpoint accuracy with that.
Okay.
I really do think that, especially with everything that's going on, with the administration, the presidential administration in the United States, there's a whole team there. It's, it's Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson and, and all of those. They are really, really trying to bring back the people going to movies to theaters thing. And I think that is going to happen. I think that going to the movie theaters is going to end up being very cool again. And especially with a lot of the AI technology that's happening, there's another thing that the AI does is like, say example, if you watch like a Marvel movie, a lot of the backgrounds that are in there obviously are fake, but even some of the ultra realistic looking ones, you wouldn't like, they just didn't have the schedule to be able to fly to New Zealand to go do it. They just recreate New Zealand right then and there, and you have no idea.
I wonder about that sometimes.
Yeah. And it saves a lot of money. So you're going to be able to make a lot better quality film for a lot cheaper.
Right.
But also it has other applications, and this isn't something that my company does, but I know that there's a company out there that does this. They have an app like on your phone. And if you do go to the movie theaters, you can take your app or you can take your phone and put it sideways like this. And if you put it on the screen, the AI will detect what part of the movie it's in. And at that point, you can go full 360 and you can see the entire world around you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And it has
that experience. Yeah.
Yeah. It has very, very crazy features to it. Like, say, for example, like the AI will look at the screen and know, okay, so this is a horror movie and the killer is about to jump out in, the next, say, 15 seconds or 20 seconds or something like that. So if you pull the phone over to the side of the room, you can see the killer coming up.
Walking up.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. To be over to the thing. It's pretty wild.
That is wild. Wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow. And to your point about, this push to get people back in the movie theaters, one of my earlier guests, I'm not sure if you know him, he's actually in Atlanta too. Ben Arnon, or is he in? No, he's in New York. Sorry, but he does a lot of stuff. His name is Ben Arnon, and he has an app called Showtime AI, where he loves going to. I think he lives like a block or two from a movie theater in New York,
Yeah.
and so he believes that these personalized movie curations can be formed with his app. And so I'm excited about that. So I would definitely put the two of you in contact, because there's probably some collaboration, or if nothing else, you can extend your network.
Sure.
The both of you. But Ben Arnon, we actually went to undergrad together. So that's good. Now, I know your customers are distributors. However, our listeners, they might know of distributors, or they're really interested in movies and content and going back to the movie theaters or experiencing. What's something that our listeners can do today to kind of learn about your AI and the company, build something, experiment? What's something that they can do this week to get more familiar with the things that you have going on?
Going a little more technically in it. Something I've been using a lot to be able to build the AI is N8N. N8N is very solid in terms of like the things that it does, but specifically between that and the company's name, I think is Softr, Softr. Those two in particular, in combination with each other, is a big way of how we do all of the things that we do. And like they have their limitations, but it seems like whatever limitation that the AI has, Softr will take care of, and anything that Softr has a limitation with, the AI will take care of. And I would really encourage them to, especially if they're trying to make money, or if they're trying to spend money on it. That's another huge thing, because like I said, with these film projections, there's companies out there charging $6,000 a year to be able to do this. And I built it for $200.
Wow.
And
you're saying, yeah, no, that's amazing. And this is very helpful. So you're saying Softr, Softr, and then what's the second one, and spell it?
N8N. N as in Nicholas, the number 8, and then N.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Okay, got it. No, that is amazing. Thousands versus 200. Just think what you could do if you can decrease your cost base that much. That's amazing. And thanks for being so direct and transparent about the tools that you're using. So now I'm going to my question. Our last guest has a question for you, Nicholas, and that is, what moment in your life do you wish could be relived, not replayed? And that's I think a great spin on what we're talking about today. But re-experienced, and why? So again, what moment in your life do you wish could be relived, not replayed, but re-experienced, and why?
I would have to say the first investment that I secured for myself as a producer. The investment amount was $600,000. And prior to that, there had been times, like throughout my life, where something like that would have been completely just like out of the question. Like I was homeless for 3 years.
Wow.
And to go from that to closing, $600,000 for a movie, the feeling of just gratitude and an accomplishment, and all of that, it's it really kind of changes you, as a person, and it makes you, feel that good once, and then you kind of realize it's over. And then it makes me want to do it again and again and again and again. And, to this day, even with everything that I do, with the AI and the all the innovation and things like that, it's meant out of, a lot of people are in business because they just want to blow other people out of the water and take all the money, but
let's share. There's a lot out there. Let's all share it.
And but me in particular, there's no better feeling than people that if they don't have a lot of money and they really really need help, but they're talented and they do a good job. Because like you give them paychecks, and that money wasn't just all going to me. That money was going to pay for a budget, so that way them and their families have food. And so like to do that, it's almost it's about more than just yourself. It's about all of those other people as well, and them having health insurance and them having food and them being able to take care of their children, and and all of that. It's a really really awesome feeling. And also for like the other filmmakers there, because I do feel like obviously I'm pioneering a lot of this because there's not like documentation out on it. So there's but the way that I'm doing this, the parameters that the actual AI needs is causing a lot more filmmakers to be like, wait a second, there's business involved in this. Like we have to do math and stuff like that for the movie to do good. And that's like a thing that they haven't necessarily thought about. And other people would tell them they have to do something, but in order to actually put it into practice, now they have to do a lot more with it, and it's kind of changing the way that the industry does business, which is good because it was terrible before. Whenever people would go there, it's just like it's kind of like dealing with a movie is like dealing with the government. Like anybody and everybody who can do business with them tries to rip them off like crazy because they know they got the money. And so films are that way too. I mean, but what's happening behind the scenes is you're taking, millions of worth of other people's money, and you're spending it, and you're having to spend it like it's your own money because you have to get them that money back, and you have to make a return. Otherwise, you're not going to have them as an investor the next time.
Right.
So
about that future round.
Yeah.
Yeah. And no, I love that. And I did not know, thank you for just opening up your heart and sharing your story. I did not know that you were homeless, but what an inspiration to know for those listeners that there could be a dream, and you should relive these moments in terms of success and meeting your goals. And then on top of that, you give back and you really view it as, a heart role in terms of helping the community and the people that you employ. So thank you so much for that, Nicholas. That's amazing.
And thank you.
Yeah. So now let's run into our bonus rapid fire.
All right.
So I'm going to quickly ask a question and you'll quickly give a response. So the most overrated tech trend.
Oh, anything social media, really.
Okay. What about the most underhyped AI breakthrough?
AI video that's matching.
Okay. Love that. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say one thing, like I was telling you before, one thing that we do with this, with the matching AI video is that we're able to, whenever we go to pitch people, we're able to make actual movie trailers for a movie that hasn't been shot yet because the video matches. And so we could have the same character in the same scene or in the same location, or use the same location for a different character or something like that. And it really brings it together. Not that we're trying to, take the job of any actor or anything like that, or overdo, what the director is meant to do. But it is really, really helpful in terms of being able to get the money and having them actually see the vision of what we're going for. And a lot of the language that you use for it is, it's film speak. You have to say what kind of shot it is, what sort of lens they're using and things like that. So you can really, really get fine tuned with it. It's really an awesome system.
Oh man, that is amazing. And you're right. Definitely underhyped.
Yeah.
What about one book everyone should read on the future or AI or?
I'm not a good person to be suggesting books because I don't read.
Well, where do you get how about this? Name a place to get your inspiration. Where do you get your inspiration? Where do you get other knowledge from?
A lot of my inspiration comes from, putting down a phone and putting down a book and going and actually talking to people. Okay. Because when you meet somebody, you can tell somebody's mindset from the way that they talk about themselves. And it's one thing to be able to see that. And then it's another thing to watch them, come back and change that about themselves. I really like going to NFL football games. I live very close, here in Atlanta. I live very close to the Falcons Stadium. And it's fantastic seeing players go in there and just having terrible games and people are booing them and all kinds of other stuff. And then you come back a week later and they are like complete mindset shift. You know, and it just makes you, right. They're standing right in front of you. You know, they're a real human being. Right. And so it's like, well, if they could do it, then, you know, then I could do the same thing, you know, because I literally just watch them do it. And that's inspirational as well, you know.
Yeah, no, be able to bounce back, because you're right. It's a lot of pressure. People say, well, they get paid for it.
Yeah.
So
well,
there's pressure.
So do I. I mean, I get paid quite a bit, you know.
Well, that's good. No, I thank you for that spin. Yeah. So you heard it here, guest. Sometimes you just you put down the book and then go talk to people, and that way you can get some inspiration from there. What about the boldest AI prediction you believe in?
I think that they're going to have fully autonomous, like full body versions of therapists in the future. Like somebody, like no person, but it looks like a person. You know, like you've seen the kind that can walk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You'll basically walk into a room, sit on a couch, and just start talking to it, tell it every single problem you have, and it'll just fix it.
Well, that's amazing that you would say that, because actually Krishna, my last guest, said something and he didn't know this about me, but my area of focus is in human robotic human AI relationships.
Yeah.
I believe in a world where people will form relationships, get married, have families. Yeah. And so I agree with you. There will be robotic therapists. The only thing is you might not go to them. They might already be there with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's good. Huh? Go ahead.
They might even make them, like door to door. Like, you know, like kind of like Uber, like you can order one and then it just comes over and talks to you for an hour.
Okay. That is amazing. You're for the person that doesn't want that robot in their house all the time. You could have, look at you, inspiring ideas. Yeah, no, that's good. So that's amazing. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation, Nicholas. Tell us, how can we get in contact with you? How can we find out about your projects that you have coming up?
The projects that we have coming up, you'll see them. They'll say Mixed Slate Productions on them. You know, there's like I said, Mixed Bag the series is coming out. We haven't we're 2 weeks out of mastering it, and then we'll start pitching it to networks and everything. So we'll have to see what happens with it. But we do have we have other movies coming on. Some I can talk about, some I can't. But just your general platforms, Netflix, Hulu, anything that's out there. Also, we're, I didn't say that by mistake either. We are pushing theaters as well. So if we can get a theatrical run, we'll put it in the theaters. Sometimes, for our budget ranges, they only make sense to go for like a few cities, like major cities. But if not in the theaters, you'll see it on streaming platforms. And then in terms of getting in contact with me, I do LinkedIn a lot. I'm on LinkedIn. You'll see me on LinkedIn, and Instagram as well. Both of them are at Nicholas Capone.
Excellent. That's NicholasCapone. Well, Nicholas, thank you so much. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation about what you're doing to really shake up the industry, and I appreciate it. And I cannot wait to continue to follow the great projects that you're working on and the success that you're experiencing with Mixed Slate. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to Lead with AI. I'll see you next time as we continue exploring the cutting-edge innovations shaping AI across the public and private sectors. Until then, keep leading with AI.